Let's try to form a better understanding of viruses and viral infections and pandemics. Let's get a better understanding of viruses because most of us don't have any understanding of them, right or wrong. We don't know. So we're still going to apply the concept of no waste in nature. All right, we're going to go back for just a minute to just basic elementary school, junior high school science class and use our intuition and our instincts. Okay, so contrary to what modern medicine and the government and the CDC and your pediatrician and your health department and your veterinarian and TV commercials have to say, contrary to all of that, viruses are not out to get us. They're not militant invaders. That makes no sense from a concept of no waste in nature. Just like the bacteria, if there's a virus invading the body or out there, there's a reason for it. It serves a purpose, just like bacterial infections that I talked about in the prior video. Now, although viruses are very different from bacteria, they're a whole different thing, and we're going to get into that in this and maybe a few other videos because there's a lot to talk about. But they still exist for the same reasons. There's an imbalance or an excess of something toxic that the virus needs to help us clean up or do something to restore that balance. So they're different from bacteria and fungus or yeast because those things feed off of something that's dead or dying or decaying or contaminated in some other way. But even though viruses don't do that, they still have the same purpose. They're here to help us and every living thing on the planet. Every living thing on the planet, viruses help deal with or adapt to something toxic or harmful. That's because there's no waste in nature. If there's something toxic or harmful happening, something needs to be upregulated by nature to deal with that for us. Viruses are just packets of genetic instructions with single names that describe their structure. So from veterinary community, the viruses rabies virus, parvovirus, distemper virus. In cats, there's rabies virus, and there's also calicivirus and panleukopenia virus and infectious rhinotracheitis virus. And people, you've heard of them, measles virus, polio virus, smallpox virus, flu virus, all the others. But here's the question that we don't ever ask. Here's what's important. Who and when and where determined that these packets of non-living genetic instructions, they're all DNA or RNA material, who determined that they're actually militant invaders that are hell-bent on hijacking our cells? Have you ever thought to ask if maybe it's the other way around? For example, maybe those packets of genetic information are produced by some particular cells in our body instead of invading those cells. Maybe they're produced by those cells to release or share some genetic information with other cells or organs or either other people nearby. This comes back to a classic example I've talked about before in the bacteria video and elsewhere. Pasteur's germ theory versus Béchamp's terrain theory. It's classic. Pasteur, the germ theory, suggests that viruses are indiscriminate militant invaders that are just out to kill us all for no good reason. Whereas the terrain theory proposed by Béchamp says that this is just our cell's way of trying to adapt genetically to some new toxic environmental insult. That illness and disease, whether it's bacteria or viruses, exist to clean up something that's wrong in the environment or in the terrain that we're living in. So, which makes more sense to you, and the concept of there's no waste in nature? Because that concept, no waste in nature, absolutely applies. Which makes more sense to your intuition, to your inner child. Before, if you're a veterinarian or a doctor, before you went to vet school or medical school, before you went to nursing school, before the TV and the government and your pediatrician told you all these things, when your mind was still pure and you weren't contaminated with all these thoughts, when your intuition and your instincts made your decisions, when you were a kid in elementary school and there was right and wrong, black and white, there was no gray area. It was either yes or no, black or white. To that individual, before you learned all these things that modern science and the modern world wants you to learn, what makes more sense to you? That viruses are just trying to kill us all for no good reason because they want to rule the world? Or do viruses exist to try to help clean up and respond to some toxins in our environment? So although I say that viruses aren't alive the way we are and bacteria are, they still follow the rule there's no waste in nature. And here's the difference there. As I said a minute ago, and as I talked about for bacteria are living and they feed off of something that's either living or was living. So something organic material that's dead or decaying or decomposing, and it used to be alive, so it's organic. Viruses, instead, take care of all the non-organic stuff. So viruses help us adapt or deal with non-living, non-organic toxins in our environments. This is usually, but not always, the man-made toxic stuff that's non-living, like chemicals and a few other things. This video is going to get too long. In the next video, we will talk about, briefly as possible, all the viruses through history and what actually caused them, because it's not what you think. It's all man-made stuff that caused them. Okay, thanks.